Here we go, episode 3. Welcome to the Buck and Mike Experience.
Experience sports like you never have before.
Where the buck stops
and the mic drops.
Bam. All right. Well, and back everybody. Thanks everyone that's joined our channel and followed, like, subscribe. Remember, keep doing that. We'll remind y'all again at the end. Well, not a lot going on right now in the world. We'll hit on some high points, dunk contest, all that fun stuff. Did you give any of it a look?
Just a little bit. A lot of it was just the highlights. You know how I feel about basketball right now. So especially the All-Star weekend, like it's kind of just a joke now. So I really didn't pay too much attention to it.
The game itself was awful. Like, it's crazy because ever since they switched to this format where they like set a point mark at the end, like the first 3 quarters were a joke, and then the fourth quarter was like locked in. Like they actually were playing. And this week, it was bad. I think they had like the lowest ratings that they had. I think it was only like 4.8 million viewers or something.
Yeah.
You got to do something because your All-Star game is actually the easiest one to have a competitive game that's not baseball.
Exactly.
Like, there's no reason why you can't have some competition.
It ain't like you're going to go out there. I mean, you can still get hurt, but it's not like you're not going to be able to go out there and put on a performance like you would during a regular game.
You could play half defense. Like, not just, we're going to step out of the way. Like, that's not entertaining. Tatum went for 55, and he was like, I want the Kobe Award. But I don't even think Kobe would be happy if she wanted an award when you didn't have to do anything.
No, he wouldn't. Because Kobe there's a video of him talking about how he doesn't like the format of how it's just don't play defense. It's you're the best in the world, and you're just lollygagging instead of playing hard. Like, he's an ultimate competitor, so he would have hated to see what happened.
Sat out. He might have just said it's not worth my time. And so... But, I mean, All-Star Weekend, the night before, the festivities were pretty cool. The celebrity game, DK Metcalf went out there, put on a show. So good of a show that he got drug tested.
And also a little bit was because of that fake video of him jumping 15 feet in the air.
Yeah, that was totally fake. But the dunks, he did put on some dunks. Calvin Johnson was bullying girls, swatting shots. That was entertaining. The skills contest was kind of the Oxcapomos couldn't even do it, the whole family, because Giannis was hurt, so that wasn't a lot of fun.
Well, the highlights that I saw, or the lowlights actually, I guess we should say, the shooting competition, the
3-point contest.
The sophomore shooting of the skills.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
they scored 2 points.
That was bad. There was some of them.
I saw that and I was like, why does anyone even care?
And that ties into the 3-point contest. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, like, I haven't played in a while because I messed up my back. But you give me a week of training, I promise you I'm shooting more than the 8 points that Kevin Herrera got in the 3-point shootout. 8 points? There's a whole rack of 2-point balls and 2 3-point shots, and you got 8 points, bro? And I think he made 2 of the shots that were worth double. So you're saying you made 6 shots. Lillard finally got that. That meant a lot to him. He'd been chasing it because he wants to. Lillard would be seen as an even better shooter than he really is if he wasn't playing at the same time as Curry. And Clay. I mean, the guy's an assassin. I still hate him for taking my team out of the playoffs on a walk-off fashion, but I mean, honestly, you got to give him that. The fun one, I will say this was the best dunk contest in a couple of years. Some of the other guys weren't great. Mac McClung. I think I mentioned him last week.
Is it McClung or McClung?
McClung? Texas Tech kid. Yeah. He went out and put on a show, and it was hilarious listening to some of these guys talk. Because, like, Kenny Smith, the TNT announcer, he was just dogging him the whole time. Oh, we've never seen this kid dunk in a game. What is this kid going to do? He can't do it. And he turns around and throws his first dunk down, and he starts changing his tone real quick. And Reggie Miller and Draymond Green are looking at him going, we don't care if he hasn't dunked in a game. We've seen his highlights. This ain't a game. Like, this kid can fly.
Yeah.
And, I mean, now you've got guys like Shaq and all these people talking about how he saved the contest because it had been dying. The year before, you struggled to get big names to do it. And that's sad because you did have it. I'll give guys like Jordan and Clyde and all them, they did dunk contests. They did stuff like that.
So I think what a lot of people don't realize is most of the guys that we know that are that are big dunkers in the NBA they're more just like hard dunkers.
Yes.
They're not. It's not like you see them do something special. They're just hard dunkers.
Yes.
And I think that's what a lot of people get a little bit of misconception on whenever they're like, oh, the big names aren't in here. Like, well, the big names that you watch, they just dunk hard.
Yeah, you'd also have to, there's a lot, like, I think Ja Morant might be interesting, and Zion, a healthy Zion could do some cool. Yeah. But you know what, to be honest, LeBron probably wouldn't have been the best option, and everyone's like, oh, he never did it. LeBron's strong and fast, but he's not going to go and do a 360. That's mainly who I was
talking about. He just dunks hard.
Yeah, he's not doing 360s. He's not doing 540s. He's not going to be able to do the tricks because of his size.
There's no reason for him to enter that just to lose.
Yeah, like if he loses it, it's just going to hurt him.
Yeah, he knows he's not going to win it, so there's no point for him.
And so, I mean, there's some guys that you wish could do it, like a Ja, guys like that, but it is fun getting... Oh, sorry, Skeeters. There is some fun seeing some of these younger names, though, and some of them... Because they have... I mean, there's a genuine extra practice they have to put in to prepare for this. Like, you can't just go in there and go, oh, look how far I can jump. Because now we've seen so much of this stuff.
Yeah.
Some of these guys have to call out guys like that are these pro street dunkers and get tips. I'll tell you right now, I had a guy on Facebook that was like, let's just bring in street dunkers. I'll tell you right now, if they did that... If you did that, Jordan Kilganon's won the dunk contest every year. If you don't know who Jordan Kilganon is, you get on YouTube and you look up Jordan Kilganon, because that dude can go reverse, behind the legs, turn and dunk the basketball like this and never see the goal. That dude's insane what he can do.
Talking about saving the dunk contest, that would save the dunk contest. Opening it up to let others come in. It would add a cool wrinkle to it. I mean,
I still think the best dunk contest...
Or you could just add an amateur dunk contest along with the...
Oh, but then you risk showing up your NBA athletes, and they already changed
then get rid of the dunk contest for professionals.
Yeah, they did change the format right before the draft. So they did the schoolyard draft, which was fun. It was interesting.
Stupid.
But they changed the format to do the reserves first, so there wasn't a last pick. But then the starters didn't want to get picked last either, and I'm sorry, there's not a better player in the world of basketball right now than Nikola Jokic. And that dude was the second to last pick. And you know why he was? Because he got up and he walked to LeBron like, no, I ain't going last.
and not only that, but at the same time, he even told him that this isn't my style of game.
It's not.
I would pick me last.
He's in it. Not my. He's in it because of how good he is and how he plays for the fans, and he should be there. But it's not. The dunk contest plays to the guys. Like, there were fun moments when Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum were like, oh, we're teammates, and now we get... No, that was cool, but like you said, the game at all wasn't, spectacular.
And then even Giannis saying that he wasn't going to pick Tatum, or he would pick him last, and then he ended up picking him first.
Yeah, and so there were some... you had some buyout deals. Kevin Love ended up moving on to the Bulls. Or the Heat, sorry. That'll be interesting, because I think they are talking about having him as a starting lineup, which the Heat, they've got some recovery to do in that season.
Okay.
The Russell Westbrook to the Clippers, back with Paul George. Him and Paul George really like each other. He's another one of those guys that say, like, people crap on Russ in the media because he doesn't do well with people, but Paul George and many of other fans have screamed that we love playing with Russ. So he could fit in there. I don't like Kawhi Leonard, but I'll now have to cheer slightly for the Clippers for Russ because I love Russ.
It's going to be interesting to see how Russ fits in to that with Kawhi. Of course, Kawhi's probably going to be injured. So
Kawhi's probably going to miss half of it anyway. And Kawhi plays well off of the ball, so I don't see why he doesn't have to have the ball. And with his body, you probably don't want him on the ball all the time. It'll probably help keep him healthy.
That is true.
So you're trying. The goal is for the Clippers is make it to the postseason. If you get to the postseason, that's where your season starts.
And Pat Beverly, he's going to the Bulls.
He is. I hate Patrick Beverly.
And the reason why he wants to go to the Bulls is because he said that, why not? The East is open. There's nobody here.
It's true. Everyone left.
And then his next goal, other than that, is to take the Lakers out to make sure they don't make the playoffs.
Well, let's go out on a limb and say that if the Lakers don't make the playoffs, Patrick Beverly and his averaging 3 points a game will not be the reason the Lakers don't make it. But the playoff race is on, and then you just see what happens. On the topic of races, we did have a big one. What I call the start of the sports year, the Daytona 500.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk on it on Twitter, too. There were a lot of people talking about it.
I talked to him about this before we really started recording. I called the Daytona 500 basically the New Year's Day of sports. Like, I have a weird sports calendar that says Christmas is the Super Bowl. We go about a week, and then boom, we get to the Super Bowl of
or the Daytona 500, which is their biggest event of the year. We probably will touch on NASCAR 3 times all the times that we record this show, and most of them will be Daytona 500.
I used to watch NASCAR.
I did too.
But my guy's retired now, so...
Same. That one of the reasons it was worth touching on for me is my favorite driver ever decided this year, after 2 years off, that I'm going to run in 6 races and 1's Daytona. I'm a Jimmy Johnson guy, so I watched the last 3/4 of the race just because he was running in the top 10, and I wasn't going to miss Jimmy doing something good.
Well, even though, like, it's funny, even though I'm a big Chevy guy, like, my favorite driver, Joe Ford. I was a big Greg Biffle fan. Like, the first time I ever actually went to the Texas Motor Speedway was the year he won the Hack.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was my very first time, and I was in the infield, and I got to watch him win. I was like, this is, like...
That's awesome.
And mainly, he's my favorite driver because he drove 16, which is my number. So,
see,
I chose him because I grew up as a Jeff Gordon fan.
I started liking Jimmy Johnson when he first came in. Because when I was a kid, we did like the fantasy NASCAR and all that. Like,
oh yeah, okay.
My parents did, and like my mom would win because her and her friend would pick the drivers they thought was hot, and I got Jimmy Johnson as a rookie.
No one chose Kevin Harvick.
Hey, last Daytona 500 was this year for him. He racked out.
Really?
This was his last run at it. There were a lot of big names doing it. A lot of young guys are starting to step in, but Jimmy was a guy I got in drafts learning about him, and 7 championships later, they changed the rules for that guy. So he was one I had to root for. But Stenhouse gets the win on the longest Daytona ever because they had to go 20 extra miles because of the overtime rules. They had to do 2 extra overtime sets of green light checkered because of cautions.
Oh,
and so
okay.
Stenhouse ends up passing Logano like by a nose, and then there's a caution, and that's how Stenhouse wins.
Wow.
And the guy who's mad as anyone, and is someone that most people don't even like, is Kyle Busch, who is his 17th running. 17 tries at this race. He was in first at lap number 200 at the 500-mile mark. Doesn't get the win because of overtime rules. He said in the interview after, he goes, I wish it was 1998 rules. Which was a knock to the fact that it took Dale Earnhardt as long as it did to win one. And so that was always fun. The other cool name to drop was Travis Pastrana. You know who Travis Pastrana is?
Yeah.
We're talking multiple-time X-Game gold medalist. Tries his hands at anything cars. Finishes 11th at the Daytona 500.
He was in the Daytona 500?
He was, not only was he in it, just a freelance drive. He does things like this. He was quarters of seconds out of being a top 10 finisher. And like people are like, oh, Stenhouse is happy because he finally got his win there. I don't think anyone was happier than Travis Pastrana. He's like, it's just, I got 11. Like,
that's crazy.
Pretty cool.
That
like, he's the guy that when
the
race is coming to an end, you're watching, you're going,
wow.
The end of this is cool, but I want to see if Travis Pastrana can get a top 10. Like,
that's pretty miraculous to be honest.
It is, and you don't. I mean,
you're not even a real NASCAR driver, and you end up placing 11th.
And he's like, he's 39, 40 now. Like, we're talking, he's in.
So what? So he placed better than Danica Patrick, and she
ever did. She was a career racer, and so which isn't Danica Stenthouse's ex, the guy that actually won the race. I thought maybe I know she dated Rogers.
Yeah, I know
we'll
she dated
get into
Rogers.
Rogers again.
Yeah.
So there were some fun points. Like, it was an entertaining race. I don't even understand some of the new points that NASCAR's done. Like, there's segments and I just want to watch who wins the race. I turn on big races like Daytona, Talladega, because there's a big crash, and I mean, as long as everyone walks away healthy, it's fun watching the cars fly.
I mean, I just watched, watching those circles, just NASCAR.
Hey, you know what? Going 200 miles an hour in a circle, though, is a lot harder than it sounds.
I mean, definitely.
The hydration, the 4 hours without going to the restroom.
I mean, that's
like,
tough.
You know they're peeing
That's
in
tough.
pants.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, football players talk about how they pee
What if you catch a stomach bug mid-race? Like, dude, I would not want to be cleaning that car.
Yeah, that's
rough. Michael Jordan owns the team,
rough.
too. He owns Bubba Wallace's car.
Does he really?
Yeah, Michael Jordan got into NASCAR this year.
Good Lord.
Him and I want to say
everyone.
One of the announcers, not Biffle, but Blaney, I think it was Blaney, maybe?
Okay, Ryan Blaney?
No, Blaney was racing. I'll have to remember. It'll hit me while we're talking.
Yeah, see, I actually know some of the NASCAR drivers.
Yeah,
I used to watch it.
It's a very popular name. I just can't remember him off the top of my head. Like,
Waltrip?
No,
he's
Waltrip's
already
not
got
even
one.
on the. He was on the Fox broadcast for the race, but
Okay.
he it'll hit me and I'll say, damn, how did I not remember his name? But yeah, he co-owns the team. He was the number 11 driver, because the team's name is 2311, number 11. Gosh bless America.
Let's
Yeah, we need
just
you to look that up.
do a
I'm
Google.
doing a little goofy update on this thing.
NASCAR number 11. Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin, that's right. Denny Hamlin and him own the team. And Denny Hamlin was a guy that was always a very successful driver.
Yep.
And so that'll be, they own Bo Wallace's car,
Okay.
a couple others. And then it was real funny because while they're doing the broadcast, Stewart Haas Racing, which is Tony Stewart's team, he's on the broadcast. There's a wreck that involves literally his entire team. All 4 of the Stewart Haas cars are in the wreck. And the announcer goes, well, Tony, how's that make you feel? Well, that's my whole team out of the race, so I'm not winning Daytona. And so there were some funny drops, but I mean, it's a fun sport to, see stuff. Especially now that I've worked with cars for a while, I kind of know a little more of what's going on, so it's entertaining. But I mean, that's about all that. And then we slide into pre-baseball stuff. We've got WBC odds. Dominican Republic's the favorite, followed by the U.S.
Obviously. I mean,
U.S. is your defending champ.
They have basically everybody.
The DR stacked. The U.S. lost 2 pitchers, though. They lost the kid, Nasty Nestor from the Yankees, and Clayton Kershaw both pulled out. So that's going to hurt.
Really?
Yeah, that's going to hurt the U.S.
Wow.
They're pitching. I think the team to watch is going to be Japan. Besides Shohei, there were 2 prospects that came to America this year from Japan. One signed with the Mets, which we'll get into National League signings next week, but one of them signed with the Boston Red Sox. His name is Masataka Yoshida. The dude's got 2 MVPs in the Japan League. He's a .328 batting average, which most people say, if you don't know, the Japanese Baseball League is basically like the step below the MLB. Like you have AAA, PCL, I believe it is, which is the Japanese league, and then the major leagues.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why a lot of these guys come from Japan.
And they're
They
successful.
play 5 or 6 years, and they can step into the bigs and they can rock and roll.
Okay.
And so he's a 2-time MVP, home run derby champion, .328 hitter. I mean, the guy's got solid numbers. He's like 29. He'll be playing on that Japan team. I mean, they're gonna have.
He won't be playing in the MLB for long though. He's 29.
I think he signed a 6-year deal with the Red Sox for like, I think it was like $90 million. Which that's the crazy part is you can get a really good player.
I mean,
for
$90
relatively
million plus
cheap.
whatever they had to pay Japan to get him.
That's the expensive part because you have to pay that transfer fee, and that's where they kill these guys. And then you're not even factoring in that his teammate in Shohei is gonna. Who knows what's gonna happen with that? That dude's gonna be the story of
Strike
the year.
everybody out, hit a couple home runs.
Get traded, get re-signed. The Japanese are sitting at 3rd longest odds at 350, and then after that, Puerto Rico is like 1,000 to 1. Like they think it's gonna be the DR, the Americans, the Japanese, and after that, everyone else is like, yeah, we'll give him a chance.
Jesus.
And so,
All right.
it'll be interesting. That starts in 2 weeks. All the players reported this week, though. I've seen some cool pictures of some of the guys. I think they actually got DeGrom to practice. So.
They did well. So I read a little bit more on that, and apparently they just did it out of precaution last week.
Yeah.
And because they don't want him.
Don't want him to get hurt.
They don't want him to get hurt. So
You
they did it out of
paid too much.
precaution, and they said from what I read, they just didn't feel comfortable with him throwing it, and so it was. I was kind of happy with that because I was like, you got to be easy with that dude because
you've got to play safe.
He's gonna get hurt, so
and
you
he's
need
gonna
to
set
let
the tone.
him.
The Rangers went out and signed 4 starting pitchers this offseason. If you count that they qualifying offered,
It's the
Perez.
first time they've actually went out.
They did, and they said
like just dropped the hammer and was, we're getting pitching finally.
You've got to give props to the new owner, the guy that took over a couple years ago. And at first, it seemed like he did not care about baseball. Like when he took over the team, it was like, all right, fancy your stadium. It seemed like he really didn't care. And Ray
Was
Davis,
it him or was it John Daniels?
that also could be playing into it. But it seems like now with Chris Young taking over as the GM and Ray Davis coming in, the farm system is the best we've seen it since the 2010s. And I mean, we're not even going to see a lot of these guys come to the bigs because you signed Evaldi, DeGrom, Haney.
It's going to be a while before we see.
Josh Young might be a Rookie of the Year candidate. I mean, that guy, they love him if he can stay healthy. And I think the factor that people don't remember is the new management.
I love that they decided to go, what, for lack of a better term, old school. Like, they brought in Bruce freaking Bochy, who hasn't been managing, but that dude's got World Series rings. He's got skins. One against us.
Basically, what they did was they went back several years ago when they had to choose between Nolan and John Daniels. They went with John Daniels instead. They went with the analytics guy instead of the baseball guy.
And they hired an analytics-minded manager. They made all these analytics-style moves,
and now they're going back to that. That's how baseball goes.
Exactly. I'd have been ecstatic. I'm not even gonna lie. If they had said, "Hey, Ron, you want to come back?"
I would have loved it. I would have loved it.
Ron Washington is amazing.
Ron Washington.
Yes, and I mean, I get why you didn't bring him back. I mean, I don't think he actually. I think you got a better guy. When they were looking, I wanted them to get a Bochy, a Joe Madden, someone who has skins on a wall.
That was really good.
My argument for a Joe Madden is like, because as a Cubs fan also, as 16. Tattooed on I'm getting it tattooed on my body at some point. World champions. As a Cubs fan, I realize how important the manager can be to your dugout. Like, there's people like, the players do it. But let's fast forward from 2016 to 2022, 23. Chris Bryant last year was awful for the Rockies. Baez hit below 200 most of the year. Rizzo's okay now, but he's gotten older. Wilson Contreras was the only guy on that Cub team that stayed there. I mean, most of these guys that were super young, that were supposed to be the reason the Cubs won like 5 World Series in a row.
Yeah.
As soon as Joe Madden left, they all just I mean, they suck. And it's kind of a showing that Chris Bryant won an MVP and a Rookie of the Year playing with Joe Madden.
It can change a lot of things with just it's just like the NFL. Like, a player goes to the right team with the right coach, they can bring out the best in them. Just like, if you, say you draft a defensive tackle, it depends on what kind of defensive tackle he is. Is he a 4-3 defensive tackle? Or is he a 3-4, 3-technique defensive tackle?
Yeah, and it's like we said with the Cardinals.
If he plays on the outside, he's not going to do well on the inside.
No.
He could, but,
it's
like that. And with baseball, it's the same thing. Like, you have to have that tone in the locker room that's just perfect for these guys,
and
because sometimes you get the wrong guy in there and it doesn't work.
Yeah, and it's long. 162 games, 6 months, dog days of summer. You're playing in days where it's going to be pre-dome. You play in Arlington at some point, and you're playing in the mid to high 90s. Days. You double headers. You're playing night games, traveling the next day. I mean, there's a ton. I mean, they brought in Greg Maddox is a consultant this spring. Mike Maddox is back on the staff, which he was a guy that was here with. I love Mike Maddox. Mike Maddox was a guy that was on the staff when the Rangers were winning.
He's the pitcher whisperer.
Oh yeah.
Like, he brings out the best in who he's got.
Oh yeah. And
I don't know how he does it. I mean, it's a Maddox thing, I guess.
I mean, if he talked to his brother, we all know how great his brother was. So. Now, I think this is the year, just strictly AL talking, this is the year that we see the Rangers make a step towards contention. I think if they can stay healthy, I
think that's the right thing to say, a step towards.
I think they can definitely contend for a wild card. I think the Indians were a wild card team last year. And I think the Rangers will be better this year than the Indians were last year. So I think that the Rangers are a team that are a wild card. I don't think they're ready to beat the Astros. The Astros are still ridiculously good. They added Jose Abreu this year. They have the shortstop Pena's a stud. Alex Bregman's a stud. That team has got a lot of talent, and I don't see that team going anywhere anytime soon. The American League as a whole should be pretty good, though. The Twins kept Carlos Correa after his adventures with the deals with the Giants and the Mets falling through. Correa is going to be a good ball player for them. That's going to make that a team to beat. The Yankees added who I thought was my favorite pitching prospect in free agency.
That's what I was trying to think of.
Carlos Rodon?
Well, no, you kept on calling them the Indians. They're the Guardians now.
Guardians. Yeah, there we go with the name.
I was like, I know they changed their name.
Yes,
I couldn't remember the
Cleveland Guardians. As a Major League fan, I'm gonna get that one wrong. As long as we run this show, if they get brought up, I'll say it wrong the first 3 times. But the Yankees bring in Carlos Rodon. I wanted him for the Rangers more than I did DeGrom. I understand DeGrom's better, but Rodon stays on the mound. And he's younger.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. The Mariners are young. They've got guys like Julio Rodriguez is a stud.
I don't understand the Mariners, man. They stay young. Like they don't hold on to people. They're like,
and if
all right, next guy up.
They better keep Julio Rodriguez for a long time because that young man is
he's going to be something special. He's going to be something special. He's going to be one of those. Well, I'm not going to put him in that same pedestal, but he's going to be remembered the way that Ichiro and King Griffey Jr. And Alex Rodriguez were with the Mariners. Like people,
guys that
will remember his name for a long,
he will
long
be
time.
that. I just hope they keep making sure to make moves to rebuild because I don't want to see him. Even though I like the Rangers, the only team in the division that I've ever looked at and just said, like, I really don't have a team in the Rangers division that I just don't like. Like it's never their division isn't really a division where.
I mean, I've always disliked the A's.
Yeah, I don't like their ownership because they won't even try to put a quality team out there, and then they turn around and they win, so they're frustrated. But like last year, I think the A's payroll was less than like 80 players in baseball. It was awful,
terrible.
I think this year they signed a guy for $14 million. Everyone's like, "Holy crap, he tripled their payroll!"
They used their money.
Yeah, they made. Yeah, and honestly, I don't even know where they're getting the money. Their stadium's a dump, so I'll give them that. The A's are an annoyance, but like. I've never had a problem with the Mariners. I've never hated the Angels, and so like watching Mike Trout's career be wasted sucked, and I don't want to see that for Rodriguez.
It is funny. The reason I've never hated the Angels is because of Angels in the Outfield.
Great movie.
Like
God, I love that movie.
That's one reason why I could never hate them is because I loved that movie so much as a kid. Like
I did.
It made me not want to hate them, even though I had to root against them.
Yes.
Because I had the old school A with the wings on
the halo and the
wings.
wings. Oh yeah,
I love that.
It was movies like that from when we were a kid that make you like and hate certain teams. Like one of the reasons that I like the Cubs is the movie Rookie of the Year where the kid breaks his arm.
Yeah.
Great movie. Like and it makes you fall for the Cubs. But at the same time, the bad guy in that movie is the Yankees. Screw the Yankees. We hate those guys.
Yeah. Yankees.
I mean, the
Yankees is
mess.
like the Nazis in every bad guy movie.
Exactly. And so you run into these teams and you're like, man, like screw those guys. Like I've never had a problem with the Dodgers. Why? Because Benny the Jet was a Dodger. Like, how do you hate them? Like now, yeah, they're kind of the Darth Vader of baseball, where they just buy everything up. But it's like, man. Oh, hello, weird computer talking. You don't need to talk right now. Where's your shit? No, but I mean, that'll be a topic we've talked about too, is getting into movies like that, because there are some fun movies that as a kid, people ask you, well, how are you a fan of this team? Well, they influence it. Like
that. I'm not going to lie. That actually kind of answers some questions as to why you randomly like a team all the way up in Chicago.
I'm the movie that, and I've always been a glutton for punishment. Lovable Loser. Like they were always the joke. They were always they were what we now call the Pirates. I've never had a problem with the Pirates. Like the only team in baseball that I just genuinely hate is in the division with the Cubs. And that's because I hate the St. Louis Cardinals. I hate everything about the Cardinals. I hate the state of Missouri. I hate the city of St. Louis. I despise it.
As a Rangers fan,
and it gives me double reason because I don't like them there too. Like I have plenty of reasons I can hate the Cardinals.
Yeah, as a Rangers fan, I just hate the Astros.
Oh,
it's nothing against them.
I've never had a problem with the Astros because for most of my life, not most of it, but for a chunk of my life, they were in the NL. They were no impact on it. And
I love Jeff Bagwell.
Love Jeff Berkman, Biggio.
Like
Craig Biggio was the ultimate utility player.
People hated me whenever I played baseball. And I would go up there in Jeff Bagwell's low stance. Oh. They hated it because my strike zone was that small.
Yeah.
So they hated it. Like, I loved him. But other than that, like, once they got into the AL and they became a rival, like, now you're another Texas team in the AL, like, nope. One Texas team, baby. Like, I liked you because you were in the other division. Now you're in mine.
I guess the other thing I liked about them is especially as they did it the same way the Cubs did to get to their win. I respect and love the way the Astros built that team.
Yeah, they
did. The Astros built that team. They said, "Look, we're gonna suck, but we're gonna scout. We're gonna develop." And they scouted and developed Correa. They scouted and developed Altuve. They scouted and developed Alex Bregman. A lot of the guys, that's homegrown talent. Now, they brought guys in. You brought Verlander in. You brought some guys in, but you have to do that to take that next step.
Yeah.
But they said, we're going to build this team for the long haul. And that was what was frustrating about the Cubs teams back then for 16 is that they did the same model. They built a team with Addison Russell, who they'd gotten a trade, but as a minor leaguer, and all these guys. And they fizzled out in a year. So that's what makes what the Astros have done so impressive is that you're looking at the Astros team right now.
They keep kind of retooling and it keeps working.
Yeah, and you're looking at the Astros team now and you're like, well, I don't see how they're not good for 5 more years because you've got so many guys that, I mean, we hadn't even mentioned they have 2 star outfielders out there. And, I mean, it's crazy what that organization's been able to maintain doing. So, yes, there's the whole they cheated. But you know what?
Well, you know what? That's what happens when you bring Orion in.
Well, I'll say this: I'm against cheating. I'm against steroids.
No, not the cheating part. No. Just them continuously being good.
That's what happens when you bring Orion in. But like when you look back at what the punishment was, the Astros got for cheating. They got, I think it was like $1 million fine.
It was a slap on the wrist.
It
was a we're going to.
I'm going to tell you right now
that we're going to do something.
If you could look back and know that was what you were going to get, you don't lose your title. Hell, now a few years later, we really don't even talk about
100% cheat.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Like, because technically...
That's all I'm getting.
We used to steal signs playing ball in school. Like, we sat in the dugout and go, hey, he's done this a couple times. The coaches are looking for it. We're all looking for an edge wherever we can get it.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing in sports to hit that pitch. Like,
it's not... Like, they obviously know that all that goes on, but it was the fact that they were recording
it. It was the technology and the advances. And so how they did it, I disagree with how they did it, what they did it. But I have no problems with sign stealing. I don't care what anyone says. You've done it in your life. If you've played baseball at any level that wasn't pee-wee ball, you've tried to sign steal. You're looking for any advantage you can get. It was just, they took it a little far. I mean, hell, the Red Sox did it not a year and a half later, and they got less of a slap on the wrist than the freaking Astros did. But if that's all the punishment was going to be for winning a world championship, bro, give me a ring. Give me a ring. Like, it's not going to it's already been forgotten about by so many people that it won't keep any of those guys that are Hall of Fame eligible out. Altuve,
I wouldn't say it's forgotten because I still hear it quite a bit.
You hear it around here because they're a division rival.
Yeah.
But
nationally, I was going to say maybe I hear it because I bring it up.
But nationally, it's not as touched on like it was. Correa was one of the main focal points of all that, and yet teams were diving to give him money this offseason.
Yeah.
And he was one of the guys that people said was like a ringleader of all of it. Like, he was like using it more than anybody, and now he's on like 3 different teams fighting for his deals. And he's still doing a good job. He had a great season last season.
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, right now the only guy on the national team that's like probably a lock to be a Hall of Famer might be Altuve, like because he's been in the league for 11 years now or something like that. I think it's been about 11 years.
It is.
People forget crazy. How good when the Astros sucked and were rebuilding. Altuve was already on the team batting .325. Like,
was it really?
Oh yeah, he was a stud his early years, and so
shows how much I remember.
Yeah, and so there's guys that I mean there's guys that'll end up in the Hall on that team, and I don't. It might get mentioned, but I don't think that it plays the impact that a steroid user gets knocked.
Right. Yeah.
For what that did to his because. What a steroid user did, it changed baseball statistically in a ways that we don't know how we'll ever be able to fix those.
I mean, we need to go back to it anyway just to make it fun again.
Hey, the new rule changes.
We'll just give people cork bats.
I'm a little interested in the new rule changes.
Sammy Sosa knows what that's about.
Sammy Sosa doesn't know about that.
I had to bring that up. I had to throw that out there.
Look, Sammy was not scared to cheat himself. He corked bats. Hey, but you know what? That dude hit 60 home runs 4 years in a row. Like, he said, oh yeah, 98 home run race is nothing. I'm hitting 62 the next year.
Barry said, 40? Well, I can hit 62.
Barry Bonds using steroids is still, to me, one of the saddest things. Like, he was an a-hole. Nobody liked Barry Bonds. Like, he was a jerk. those whole Giants teams were all jerks. Like him and
Jeff Kent.
Jesse Kent was an ass. Like no one liked Jeff Kent, but
everyone still hates Jeff Kent.
Yeah, but like the thing that always bugged me about Bonds is like Sosa, all he ever had was the home run. McGuire had power and he did some things, but some of these guys, they needed these steroids to make their careers and make their money. Barry Bonds just did steroids because he wasn't getting the attention that everyone else.
That's true.
He was better at baseball than any of them. He was probably
he was a bona fide Hall of Famer.
He was the smoothest hitter we've seen. He was a 500 and 500 guy. And the people
the sweetest swing in baseball belongs to King Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
Stop that.
But his sweet as Griffey's swing was, he didn't have the contact rate.
No, he didn't.
All the numbers that Bonds did. And Bonds was stealing bases left and right. He was winning outfield Gold Gloves. I mean, you can't tell me he didn't do it. There's people who are still saying, "Oh, he's never technically." Come on now. He stole 3 bases. He stole like 3 bases after he hit 500, and he was 500 and 500, like pretty close. And then it was 3 stolen bases, 280 home runs. Like, come on now.
There was an obvious shift of something that happened. But yeah,
and the bulk.
He should, to be honest, he should be in the Hall of Fame. Like him not being in there, I've been kind of one of those that's been against it just because of the steroid use. But he was a Hall of Famer before the steroid
exactly,
use.
and that's
so he's one of the few that has cheated in that sense that deserve to be in it.
There was a movie I watched recently, one of the baseball movies that talks about like it was going into stats and talking about some of their careers and stuff, and it made me kind of change my viewpoint on the steroid guys because it was talking about when Roger Maris broke the original home run record. When he broke the single season home run record, him and Mantle were racing for it to break Babe Ruth's 62 home runs, and it was a huge deal. I mean, it was covered like in the New York media crazily, and Maris was getting death threats because people wanted Mantle to break it because he's Mickey Mantle. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And you know that when he broke the single season record, it was the first year after they added another week of games. They added another 6 games to the season.
Oh.
And so when he broke it, he was on pace to break it before the new games were added. And he hit a slump, and he didn't break the record until like 2 games in after. And so in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, for the longest time, for like 30 years, it said Babe Ruth, 61. Roger Maris, 62, asterisk. And it had asterisk next to it. For the longest time it did. And when Roger Maris died, it still had an asterisk next to him. And he died not knowing that he eventually became the true single-season home run king. Like, because eventually, about 30 years later, they took the asterisk off. And so if Major League Baseball has already said that they're willing to just say, okay, here's an asterisk next to these accomplishments, then let's put these, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I mean, this will be the first time I ever said this out loud, and I'm recording it. I say we put these guys in. We just put a little notation next to them that says they might not have done it all natural, especially as you've let some steroid guys in. Some of your fringe steroid rumor guys have gotten in. You put them in. If you want to call Hank Aaron the true home run king, I don't blame you. I stand by that because Bonds did do the steroids and he did do that.
It helped push him.
And it helped push him over and it helped keep his body to do it. But you can't tell the story of baseball without Barry Bonds. Just like Pete Rose is a scumbag. Pete Rose is a crappy person. But the Charlie Hustle aspect of Pete Rose's baseball career, you can't tell the story of baseball without that aspect. And you can leave out his managing.
And he's not going to get in until he dies.
Oh, 100%.
They'll do it posthumously.
He will die, and then he'll get in on the electors committee or something. They will not. And the main reason why is he's such a jerk that they don't want to give him the satisfaction of knowing he got it. The weight, like you said, the weight. But all you have to do when it comes to his situation is his mistake that got him in trouble happened as a manager, not as a player.
Right.
So just leave that out. Leave out the aspect of what he did as a manager. Even though his scumbag issues have nothing to do with his baseball stuff. I mean, heck, the guy was betting on his own team. Like, it's not like he was betting on we were going to lose and throw in the game.
Exactly.
When they asked him, why'd you do it? He said, it made me feel like every game was Game 7 of the World Series. And you ask his players that played for him back then, they would say he coached every game like it was Game 7 of the World Series. Which nowadays you totally cannot do that. You'd run through your bullpen like it was nothing.
Yeah.
But that's what he did. And so I don't fault that. But there's guys like that I would say you put a little notation, put something, make separate record books and say, here's the home run derby of guys we know done this. Here's the guys that have had alleged or have confirmed it or something. Because we're running into a long list of these guys.
Oh, we're running into a point where you're only going to submit like 3 people.
Yeah, because
for
you're
about
getting
15
until
years.
some of these more guys come.
Yeah.
And it's also a factor in is that I don't like some of the approaches that these all-star or the Hall of Fame voters are taking, because they're not supposed to take in what happens off the field. The Hall of Fame votes for every sport are meant to be what happens on the field. O.J. Simpson is still in the Hall of Fame. O.J. killed his wife. He did it. Like, he didn't
Is
do
he
it.
still in?
I believe so. I've never seen that he was taken out. Can you be taken out? Once you're in, I thought.
Man, because I thought they removed Lawrence Taylor too with all the
Well, that
stuff
would be
was
new to
going
me.
on
That would
there.
change some of my thought. But my understanding was always you can't. But right now, Kurt Schilling's not getting into the Hall of Fame. Because Kurt Schilling is a radical opinion guy who's super far left or right. One of the two. I don't even know how that goes.
Right.
And
He's
because
far right.
because he's so open about that stuff, they won't vote him in. Because they don't want him to get on the Hall of Fame pedestal and go on a rant that makes him look bad. And so, you ought to let the guy in and just say, look, we'll make you a deal. As long as you only talk baseball, we get you in. Because he deserves to be in. He's the bloody sock and all the other things of his kind of career. But that would be interesting. I'm interested.
Okay, no. O.J. Simpson's still in.
Yeah, that's the thing. So they never, if they're going to let guys like that who've had off-the-field issues stay in or get in, you can't hold these players accountable for what happened in their life off the field.
Yeah, and even
Isn't Darryl Strawberry a Hall of Famer?
Yeah. Even like T.O. didn't get to go in for several years just because
he was a tool of the media. And sorry,
And
T.O. could go ball at 50 at this point.
Yeah.
That dude's in shape.
Like he should have been in on a first ballot with how great he was.
On the topic of T.O., and we've talked to Hall of Famers, XFL kicked off. Would you be if you're an XFL team, do you take a flyer on a guy like T.O. who begs to play football still? You want your league. I know they want their league to be like this developmental league because that's the Rock's goal.
But you still have.
But you got to get people
in there.
Yeah, but you got to get people to watch.
Even
though you're on ESPN.
I don't know if you would go that route with T.O. I think just because he is older.
Yeah.
But, it would be cool to bring him in, but I don't know if I would go that far because I think you would have, like NFL, you just basically kind of cut at a certain age. You're like, look, no.
Yeah, you're never going to. But, you can't say. It would be interestingly funny, like, if a guy like that, like some of those guys that were superstars. Oh, even if he went in his mid-40s and was like, okay, I'm going to go and play. Remember Jerry Rice retired from the NFL after having a 1,000-yard season in his early 40s.
Yeah,
so he could have walked into the XFL and probably dominated these guys that are
he probably could have. He would have.
Yeah, and so it'd be funny, but if you're those teams, like if your goal is to make sure your league is successful, you're going to sell millions of dollars in T.O. jerseys.
So that is a good thing to talk about because, you do need to bring some big names in to sell tickets because if you don't sell tickets, you're inevitably going to be like XFL 1 and XFL 2.
Where you don't
you're not going to make it. It's cool that you want to be this developmental thing, but at the same time, you have to bring in names. Even the first XFL, even after it failed, it still had guys like He Hate Me that everyone loved.
See, and they did fun things by giving them nicknames and all that. And you're not doing all this now. You're not doing the
but they are a more experimental league, and that's what I like. The kickoff, love that. Yeah. Love how they just stayed still and waited for the guy to get it. That takes away that hard just two cars colliding into each other.
Yeah. I
like that part of it.
The review process was really cool. I don't know. Did you see the video of Dean Blandino, which there's your Dallas tie, but he's sitting there and he's talking to the ref directly. Hey, so what I see here is I see 1 foot touch, 2 foot touch. We're going to call it a catch. I'm going to re-spot you. Hold on. The whole replay takes a minute and 30 seconds and they get the call right. Yeah. And they didn't make the teams have to challenge it. They didn't do anything. Dean Blandino is the guy in this particular case that was watching the game, and it was his job to go, wait, take a second. We're gonna make this change. Okay, now let's play football.
Yep.
There's no reason to charge these guys timeouts for the referees being wrong.
Yeah.
The refs are gonna be wrong sometime. It's gonna happen. If you just let it go, like I'm not saying replace them with computers constantly, but it was a cool process, and they did that in the last XFL series. The league didn't make, so you didn't get to see a lot of it. But they were doing that kind of rule with it.
So I watched 2 different games this past weekend actually, and man, I really enjoyed it. I mean, obviously there's definitely a difference in skill, but other than that,
it better to watch than college football? Because I enjoy a good college football game.
No, because college football you still got stars.
Because you have guys you know are going to become names, so that makes sense.
These are more or less guys that didn't pan out to get into the NFL and college. This weekend's
passing yardage leader was the former Dallas Cowboy quarterback Ben DiNucci.
The Nooch.
He threw for 282 yards on 54 pass attempts. He also threw 2 picks and a touchdown.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's the skill level is a lot less, but at the same time, some of these guys are going to end up giving themselves a little bit of a name, notoriety, where an NFL team is going to go, he actually did pretty good. Like, we'll give him a shot on our roster.
PJ Walker's in the NFL because he was successful in the XFL. Jordan Tamamu, who's back in the XFL, got a chance in the NFL because he was successful with the Battlehawks the last time around. So there's going to be guys. Like you said, there's going to be guys we see get chances. But, I mean, there are some cool names like Josh Gordon getting to be on a football field is awesome. Because Josh Gordon kind of got a shaft that the league wouldn't allow you to smoke marijuana, and if you just let the guy smoke, Josh Gordon was a stud.
Yeah.
He'd have had a much better career than he got to have.
He probably would have had a Hall of Fame career, to be honest.
He had that kind of stuff
really
going.
Good.
AJ McCarron is mostly popular because of Brett Musburger. If you don't remember the national championship game where Brett Musburger was drooling over AJ McCarron's wife. I'm pretty sure they're still married. Like, props to AJ. He's married to Miss Alabama.
Like, he had his kids there at the game.
Yeah.
It was an emotional little moment that they had.
And he's back on a football field. He was a career back in the NFL. He wasn't anything. He never tore up the NFL, but he had some good runs.
He was one of those, whenever they drafted him, they were holding him. They were like, we got a guy. Like, you want him? Give something up. And everyone's all like, it's all right. We'll wait till he's a free agent.
And
then once he became a free agent, before he became a free agent, they watched him play. They're like, we're good.
And so he rode the bench for, I think, the Bengals and a couple other teams. But the Renegades got a win. Bob Stoops' coaching debut. Former Dolphin Kalen Ballage, 85 yards rushing. He played for a few other teams. But
really, I didn't realize he was in there.
Kalen Ballage went for 24 for 84, led the league in rushing yards this week. And then Paxton Lynch is now the king of being benched.
Paxton Bench.
Guy Cowboys won. Guy Jerry was going after. Has now been benched in the NFL, the XFL, the CFL, and the XFL again, or the USFL. I mean, they're running out of places to bench the kid. Someone failed at their scouting and recruiting process when it came to that kid.
They really did. Like, that was one of those that just, whew. You saw the traits and you saw the height, and you were like, classic quarterback, that's the guy.
Yeah, 6'4".
And then the Broncos thankfully jumped in front of us, and as a Cowboys fan, jumped in front of us. They picked him, and we ended up with Dak Prescott a few rounds later.
And then a bunch of people went and filled out new resumes, which if they need help with, S&K Consulting and my guy Stephen Farmer will help you get your career path lined up, doing your resumes, your interview practices, and all that fun stuff. Get with Stephen Farmer now before your recruiter reaches out to you. I'm getting good at these transitions.
That was impressive.
I'm getting good at these.
That was impressive. All right.
And then we'll move on. We'll touch on some NFL. Yeah,
let's start with what you brought up earlier when we were talking. Before we get to Rodgers, is Taylor Lewan.
Yeah.
He got cut. The kicker.
The kicker. I forgot to write him down, but I got they cut Woods.
So they cut Bobby Trees. They cut Taylor Lewan. They cut Randy Bullock, and they cut Zach Cunningham.
They saved
all today.
38 million. Well, they were like $27 million over the cap, and now they're like $5 million below. They saved $38 million when Woods got cut, he went on Twitter and posted free.
Yeah.
So he was clearly upset. Whereas Lawan posted a long. I mean, he was drafted by them, so he put a long thing thanking the city.
He's already kind of hinted at either retiring or he wants to play in Pittsburgh.
Interesting.
That's two places, or one place, and they have an opening. They need offensive line now. If he can stay healthy, he'd be pretty good. It's just,
I mean, he wasn't a bad player when he was healthy,
but
that's just been the problem.
So this is what I want to bring up about that. The Tennessee Titans starting offensive line right now: center Ben Jones, right tackle Nicholas Pettit-Frere. That's it. Because they just cut their starting left tackle. Their starting left guard and right guard are both their starting left guard is restricted free agent, so he's more than likely going to resign.
One of those whisper rumors that there were like big name running backs that could get moved. On top of a free agency, a loaded free agency running back class, Derrick Henry is a name that's been mentioned. I even saw someone that said Jonathan Taylor is someone that you might see get moved. Like because teams they don't want to pay potentially.
I don't think he's going to get moved.
I don't think he will either, but
because they don't have to pay him yet.
Yeah.
So he'll at least stay another year.
The rookie quarterback they end up drafting.
Yeah.
But Derrick Henry is very well likely, especially because if you're Derrick Henry and the ability to get traded comes up, I mean, his workout routine is ridiculous. We know he's going to be in shape. We know he's going to go out there and put up numbers, but
and
that offensive line is not there.
With all this going on, like it's clear that they're in a real rebuild stage. Like I wouldn't even be surprised if Tannehill gets traded.
Tannehill's a guy that he's good enough to start on your team. Probably not good enough to win you a Super Bowl, and so
you're right.
He's gonna. I
think you're only saying that because you're a Dolphins fan, and he was your quarterback.
I would have taken him. I still would have kept him. I think we got rid of him too early though. He would have still been better than what we dealt with for the next 4 years. But at the same time,
yes,
he was used better. I think where he was.
And a lot of that just has to do with the fact that y'all had Adam Gase as the head coach. That was the problem because I
100% thought that going into this season, last season, whichever one it was, when Adam Gase got fired from the Jets. Yeah, it was 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
I 100% was ready to go bet money on most improved player or comeback player, whatever, being Sam Darnold, because every time I watched someone leave Adam Gase, they became really good at football again.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's official. Adam Gase just left the Jets. Darnold's winning MVP. I was screaming for that 3 years ago. Whenever that guy was a joke.
And in my honest opinion, I think he ruined Sam Darnold. I think the reason Darnold is not good now is because Adam Gase just completely ruined him.
Oh,
he coached him to do things that he is no longer just a viable starter.
And that was what was going on with Tannehill, like the way he was doing it. And then when Tannehill got to Tennessee, it was like, okay. I really did. I thought when Darnold left the Jets and didn't have Gase, got to Carolina, it was like, Sam Darnold, he's about to torch that division.
I told a lot of people that he was going to be a great quarterback now that he's away from Gase. But, he also went to a head coach that wasn't very good. So he just kind of got the shaft for 5 years.
He's still on the roster now, right?
He's free agent.
He's a free agent? Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, maybe Frank Reich can save something, but no.
and they could bring him back just to have someone, on that roster. Because I think right now P.J. Walker's the only one that's... Oh, no. They drafted Matt Corral last year.
He was hurt all year.
And he was one of them that I really wanted to see.
That's going to be interesting because he was not great, but he was a quality football player in college.
Yeah.
And I think we both said that we think the Panthers go quarterback in the draft. Even though I did say that was my favorite spot after we talked about it for Carr to land. I think that'd be a very good situation for him.
Yeah, well,
but
we now know that the Jets are hot and heavy for Carr.
I told you the Jets would want him. And they want to plug a veteran quarterback, and I think they can win right now.
I don't want him to go. You were trying to tell me the Saints. I was telling you
Saints.
The Jets.
You said it too. I said he'd end up on a team where they have a young team around him who to plug him into play. That's where I think he needs to end up or will end up.
Speaking of Carolina, since we're on that, I got kind of schooled on something on Twitter, and a lot of it has to do with PFF's grading system.
Okay.
So one of the things that Daniel Jeremiah did with his mock 2.0 was he gave them Peter Skoronski to play guard, and
in the first round.
And to me, when I looked at it, I was like, I mean, it's not a bad choice. Like, you have him right next to Ike Ekwonu.
Yeah.
That's a dominant force. And then a lot of people started commenting, and they're like, no, it's stupid. Like, we have a good offensive line. I'm like, yeah, but good versus great. Like, you'd have someone that's going to be great. And they're like, you do realize that the guy that's playing there was on the final top 10 of the best run blocking in the NFL. And I'm going, let me get on PFF. No, PFF's got him at like 57th. And no, if you go to ESPN, his win percentage on run blocking is top 10.
Yeah.
And it's Brady Christensen. And I was like, okay, I was wrong. I'm okay to say I'm wrong whenever you can prove me wrong. And I was like, they don't need a guard, Daniel Jeremiah, you stupid idiot.
I think they got it. On their offense, I think they really need. I hate that they get a rookie quarterback, but they need a quarterback. That's what they need. It'd be a funny one is if Rodgers was like, I'm going to Carolina. Because they got weapons. I mean,
they do got some weapons.
They've got weapons.
DJ Moore and Terrace Marshall.
A good O-line. Terrace Marshall, DJ Moore, LaVisca Chenault Jr. Terrace. My bad.
Man.
But him, Chenault Jr.
Shi Smith.
They developed a good running back core. That defense
they're both
is young.
Free agents.
Well,
so.
There's
no running back on that roster right now.
There's not one. I thought they had one more year.
Well, you know what? Chuba is there.
Chuba's got one more year.
He's not a starter. He's a
Okay.
change of pace. He's not a starter.
So then I guess if I'm Carolina, knowing how young their defense was and how it improved a lot, a veteran quarterback to come in and play that position, and then you can draft a running back from Kansas State.
Yeah,
like, that could be a team to look out for Texas running back.
Which one? Bijan or Roschon?
Bijan. I mean, that's if they're not going to re-sign what's his name.
I mean, I'll say this: if they end up getting like Jimmy Garoppolo in free agency, then well, I'm just saying because if they do that, then that means that quarterback could be something that they look at in the second, third round. It won't be something that they're like going, we have to do this now.
I'll say that. Getting Garoppolo wouldn't be a bad thing because Garoppolo's been a guy that's been a very good bridge guy, and
that's what I'm saying. Like second or third round,
well, even that, if you even have something in that Corral,
yeah.
Him and they kind of don't style that much different. Corral's a little more mobile, so maybe you end up with something in Corral, and now you get him healthy as your backup. Actually, that might not be a bad go.
And then you could actually just go, you know what? We got it. We got one of the best blocking offensive lines.
Oh, yeah.
Now we have a bridge quarterback to see. We can hold on to him and see how Corral develops. If we like Corral, boom, we got our quarterback.
Yeah.
Now you just shift that right on over, and you take Bijan Robinson.
And now you've got a running game right there. And then you can use the rest of your assets in that draft to keep reinforcing certain spots along your defense.
Like,
and then
offense.
Well, then you can literally...
You really don't have... I'm looking at their roster. They really don't have anything on defense that they need to fix.
They're so young. There's a ton of youth on that team.
And
the quarterback position is what's keeping them from literally sneaking in going, hey, guys, we're sleeping on the Panthers being legit in the NFC.
I think you get that quarterback. I think that's all it takes.
Here's a fun, bold prediction play with game. It's not actually going to happen, but Carolina comes out of left field, sends 9 and a 1 next year to the freaking Ravens and goes, Lamar, there's your veteran quarterback.
I mean, yeah, I'm tossing all that out.
I'm saying.
He ain't leaving Baltimore.
You really don't think he's leaving? You think he's staying there? If there's been whispers... But he would be the guy that you could go. I mean, if you with all the pieces they have that are young, in place, paid for, you could literally go and say, "Hey, we've got the money to pay you and a team ready to go." It'll be the best receivers he's had in his career. He'd have a very good offensive line to run behind, and you wouldn't have to get a guy like Bijan because the threat of his legs makes Chuba Hubbard a dangerous running back for sure.
Yeah.
And it would be you could get a third-round running back guy like Evans out of the former TCU product.
At Ole Miss.
At Ole Miss. He would be a guy you could put in that system. Out of North Shore High School. South Texas.
That I don't know.
Yeah, he was North Shore because he got suspended against Duncanville in the state championship game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, fun fact there. Got in trouble like the day before the game because he was supposed to go to a bigger college and ended up at TCU. I don't really know the details of it.
Really? I mean, he was a 5-star prospect.
Yeah, he was why TCU's first ever 5-star prospect. Because he was supposed to go to like an SEC school.
Interesting.
Had an off the field issue that like he drove home from the state championship game before playing the game. And then ended up at TCU, played 2 years at TCU, and then transferred out to go to Ole Miss, and then TCU goes to the national title game, and he ends up at Ole Miss.
Right. They're like,
timing.
well, we'll just use Kendra Miller instead, and just
and so,
go to the championship.
He's a quality running back, and so you could easily get a guy like him in the second or third round, and
definitely third. I'm more on the fence of like third or fourth.
I think he's going to be
first. Yeah,
is what he was. He's a power.
I think like if you're looking for someone that's going to give you that extra power, but not Bijan, like I think it's Charbonnet out of UCLA, the former Michigan Wolverine.
Yeah.
Like he's been a guy that a lot of people want to talk about. Like even Gibbs, like if you want to go top of the second and he's there, like Jahmyr Gibbs is, he's to me. From especially like some of the things that I've heard, like a lot of people, they're putting Bijan up here, but everything that I'm starting to hear is Gibbs is not that far behind him, but everything else is far behind both of them. It's like there's Bijan, Gibbs, everyone else.
The rest of the pack.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, it'll be, I don't know, the draft's gonna be fun. I'm excited to always watch it, even though like my team didn't even
we
pick
probably need to do a live stream.
That would be fun. I would be down for that. I'll clear out my living room and tell them, hey folks, we're going live first round. At least I would say Thursday, Friday. You got to do the first 2 rounds.
Yeah,
first 3 rounds.
Saturday,
at least all day.
At least,
it doesn't have to play
round
in.
1.
But round 1, round 2, because we get to talk about the picks, talk about how that. I think we just planned our first live stream event. Woo, baby!
So Jahmyr Gibbs, through some of the people that I follow, Dane Brugler. Jahmyr Gibbs ranked 21, his 21st overall prospect. Daniel Jeremiah is 28th. Todd McShay is 24th. And Lance Zerline is 36th.
Interesting. Well, I mean, that'll be fun.
And then, of course, you got Bijan, 6'4", 9, 8, and 5. So there's and 4. So there's, like I said, there's Bijan, there's Gibbs, and then the next running back. Let me look at this real quick. There's Gibbs. The next running back on the list is
somewhere down there.
Charbonnet. And Dane Brugler has him at 64. Daniel Jeremiah at 44.
So you're looking
like there's
mid-second.
Yeah. So you have Gibbs who could possibly be a late first to early second, and then after that it's just like third round.
We say that, but knowing how the league's going, there's a few teams that could use that running back spot with the free agents available on it. Even Bijan, it looks like, is going to be in the middle of the first round.
Right.
You probably don't see another running back.
You don't see as good as he is.
There's so many teams that could use his skill set, but they're addressing other things.
Yeah.
Like he'd be a great fit if you're like the Lions. If you don't want to bring back Jamal Williams, but your defense needs too much help to necessarily waste a pick there.
And another team is
Carolina fun is because Carolina does have so many holes that are already filled.
Yeah,
they could say, "Oh, we can play this
game."
They
could do it if they get a quarterback in free agency.
And that
I could see Bijan going.
It really is looking at it like on paper how good Carolina could be. Like Carolina, you brought in a quality head coach.
Yeah.
You brought in I
think Carolina is on the same path that the Giants were last year. And the Giants, and the reason I say this is last year, before Daboll got hired, I told a lot of people that if the Giants could just find a good coach, they would be dangerous. And it took 1 season, and he already won Coach of the Year.
He did, but I think he's about to take a huge step back because it sounds like there's a legitimate chance he's losing his starting running back.
It does sound like Saquon is leaving.
Danny Dimes is trying to become Danny Dollars.
Well, he's about to get Danny franchise tag.
I don't think there's any way.
Like he wants 45, he's about to get 32 for a year.
And that's in 32, and he better play better. He's going to have to play better than he did this season, which was his best season by far.
And that's why I think Saquon might be gone is because you're either going to have to pay Danny Dimes, not pay Danny Dimes, or franchise tag Danny Dimes. Like, what's more important, your quarterback or your running back?
Which is what opens up the door of Saquon to the Bears. Because Justin Fields and Saquon sharing the backfield.
I'm going to say this. And
they've got the money.
I hate it, but I'm going to say this. I wouldn't be surprised if Saquon went to Philadelphia. Because that's where he's from.
I don't know how the Eagles could afford it.
I mean, you could backload that contract.
Oh, you could, but you have so many other guys you've got to take care of if you want to keep contention.
You don't have Miles Sanders. I mean, Miles Sanders is a free agent.
This is true, and we thought Miles wanted to stay there. Apparently, he made some Twitter comments today that said that he's not against looking around. But you're going to have to... Miles is going to get 2 years, $14 million.
Yeah, they're not going to give Miles a lot of money. One, they don't value the position enough to give him big money. They tried it one time with
to earn the big money.
With a former Cowboy running back.
Yes, I know you're talking about.
Oh, man. I can't believe we forgot his name. But they signed him to a big contract, and he ended up just DeMarco
Murray.
Murray, there you go.
Yes.
DeMarco Murray. So they signed him to a big contract, and he was good, but he wasn't what he was with Dallas.
Yeah.
And that was the last time that they actually made like a big push for signing a running back that much.
I just think with all the money they're about to have to give guys, plus eventually having to pay Hurts here sooner rather than later, I have a hard time seeing it. That's why I say the Bears have so much cap space.
You can backload this because I mean, if you're Saquon, are you just going for the money?
Yes.
Or are you going because as a runner, I mean he's already got top 5 pick money.
That doesn't matter.
I mean, it's
running
not
back touching the free agent market has as big of a scout as
that is true. That is true.
His career is not going to last more than 4 years, most say. He's not going to go change the needle that much to help someone win a Super Bowl, probably.
That is true.
Depending on where he ends up. Saquon, as with his history of injuries already, needs to go get every dime he can get. And I'm usually one that says, let's pick the spot that's going to make me successful. That's why I said if I was a guy, a Carr or a Garoppolo, you go to a team where you might have a chance to win because that's going to help you make more money. But as a running back, who's signing the dog?
You know what? Texans wouldn't be bad. No, because they got a good. They got a good.
I was going to say Damian Pierce had a very good.
So I'll take that back. So the Bears, the Falcons, the Panthers.
It's gonna have to, I think he ends up on the team that has the most salary cap, but he's also gonna make sure I think that he factors in that he thinks there's a franchise quarterback that takes pressure off of him. Money comes into play there though. So many contracts already. That Von Miller contract was terrible last year.
Let me look at their over the.
I think we're gonna see the Bills end up making a few cuts here coming up pretty soon.
So cap space,
especially because they want Jordan Poyer back, and he a free agent. Their team is better when he's playing football. And
Jordan Poyer, let's see, Buffalo. Yes, he's a free agent.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want the Bills to get better, but
so I mean, yeah. The Bills are $16 million over the cap.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to just let James Cook decide if he's your guy next.
So you know what? I'll stand on this. Falcons. Bears got 98 million. Falcons got 55.
Of the whispered teams that want to trade for Lamar,
that's
one of them.
Yeah.
Imagine the Falcons saying, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Saquon Barkley, Lamar Jackson. South's ours. Just like that, the Falcons just won the South. Because they're about to... And you would have the two most mobile quarterbacks in the history of the league, and Lamar and Vic as guys that both played for the Falcons.
Yeah.
Legacy plays.
That would be you know what would be cool? If he did end up going there and asked to wear number 7.
Rocking a 7? Oh, that would be amazing.
That would be cool. That would be real cool.
And you know Vic would be like, yes. And on the sideline going, my guy. On the moves, Rodgers should be coming out or is out of his little quiet time, right?
I haven't heard anything.
But I have come to my conclusion that it doesn't matter. He's not retiring. He's too much ego.
And there is another little wrinkle to this story.
Is there?
There is. Jordan Love has said that if Rodgers comes back to play for the Packers, that he's going to request a trade.
because he thinks he's good enough to start.
So, well, I mean, a lot of people there think he's good enough to start too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the players believe it.
So
if you can make believers of your teammates.
I don't think Rodgers wants to be in Green Bay anymore.
He doesn't. He's done.
I think he's done there. I think Love will be the guy. I don't. My 100% sole reason though that Rodgers doesn't retire is because Brady retired.
Yeah.
He will not share the spotlight with Tom Brady in 5 years at the Hall of Fame. He might play next year and retire next year. Wouldn't put that past him at all. But he is not going to go and stand on a pedestal after Tom Brady because Rodgers is too full of Rodgers to not be the most important thing that retires that weekend.
Yeah, he's going to be the next Raiders quarterback. And that's all there is to it.
He's
going to be thrown in Devontae. Like, it's either the Raiders or the Jets. Like, I don't really think there's anyone else.
Yeah, because they have to trade him, so he's gonna go AFC.
Yeah. So and
Carolina.
the two things that I've seen is that with the Jets is like they're all in on going for Derek Carr, not David, sorry, and they're waiting to hear Aaron Rodgers news.
I think that. Of the veterans available, the only ones that Carolina could go after to get would be Carr or Garoppolo.
Yeah.
That's got to be where you go.
Yeah.
Rodgers is only going to go to the AFC, so it's going to be a matter of does he go to the Raiders or does he go to the AFC? That sucks for Rodgers, to be honest. That would be the only reason to retire is because going to the AFC is a gauntlet. Like, he's not... You imagine if he ends up in the AFC West, Rodgers, Wilson... Mahomes, like Herbert.
I mean,
like that division is just stupid. And I don't think Russell Wilson's that good. I don't know, but they did improve their coaching staff. They are working on making moves. I think today I saw they might be bringing in Patricia as the DC, which there's rumors that they're talking about being their DC. I just read one earlier today.
Good Lord, no. Matt Patricia?
Mm-hmm. Hey, the guy knows defense. He just can't be an OC or a head coach. But
look that up.
and then if you go to the Jets, you still have to fight with a Dolphins team that's only problem is a quarterback health, a Bills team that has a Josh Allen, the step team that would you be looking at as your trouble in there is New England. They have a guy, but they think maybe we don't really know what they have with Mac Jones because it keeps changing.
Well,
get him a real OC and let's see what happens.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is
it's hard to judge last season.
He had two terrible guys trying to call plays for him last year.
Yeah,
and they were alternating.
And they had no business calling. Neither one of them has ever called offensive plays in the league ever, and they were call plays. Like what? What are you doing?
That's asking your team to fail.
Oh yeah, and the fact that they still went 7-9 just credits Bill Belichick.
You could see the frustration on Mac during games. You could see the frustration.
He was getting very visibly frustrated about a lot of things. And so
I see what you're talking about here with Ian Rappaport. The Broncos did interview Matt Patricia. I know a few days ago Rex Ryan was like the hot
last
name.
week we talked about Rex Ryan, but that kind of quieted down.
So Rex Ryan, they've looked at Vance Joseph. Vance Joseph is also interviewed.
It looks like Sean Payton has gone in and said, "I'm going to hire the all-star staff of former coordinators, who no one will ever want to be a head coach, so that he can keep his staff together."
I mean, that's what.
It's not a bad way to go.
I mean, that's what Dallas did.
Yeah, nobody wants these guys to be head coaches because most of them. Yeah, but nobody wants these guys to be head coaches. Because they've been around for, however many years.
Most of these teams are looking for the young hot guy now.
Whereas
the next Sean
he's going in and getting guys like Patricia, who had their shot, didn't work out, but he wasn't a bad DC. Vance Joseph, another guy that he didn't go pan out as a head coach, but he wasn't a bad coordinator. That's how he got it.
Joseph was a head coach.
I thought Vance Joseph coached with.
He was a coach. He hadn't been a head coach.
I thought he was another one that did, but Rex Ryan had a run as a head coach. He had some good years as a head coach, but his age, no one's gonna bring him in to be a head coach anymore.
I might be wrong.
I swore he was maybe interviewed to head coach some and never ended up making it.
He's interviewed.
And so
as a coach, assistant.
Then you get to there's been
no, he was head coach for the Broncos.
Yeah.
Oh.
Both teams. And then now there's been whispers today of teams like a guy like Jalen Ramsey because the Lions or the Rams are now trying to figure out how we can get picks to get young again.
Yeah.
Jalen Ramsey's a trade guy, and I've heard the Lions are pushing some of the Lions players.
Yeah.
Are pushing it,
and Micah's pushing back.
But you know,
ain't nobody want to go from LA to Detroit.
you might not, but
Ramsey
you know what?
Might.
You don't. If you're the Detroit Lions, because you have to take in his contract, you're not giving up a first for him.
No.
You're giving up,
especially at his age too.
Yeah, you're giving up a second-round pick,
Like
and you're getting a veteran guy on your defense who's not a bad
he's
player.
Same age as Z. So they came in the league together.
He's
so
28.
28 years old.
Yeah, I mean, he's still got a couple of good years. He could very well be the guy that we talked about goes on the other side of Okuda. They need that guy.
No, 100%. Yeah.
And now you've got a playmaker on the defense
man, you
side
do
of the ball.
that. Yeah.
And a lot of reports say that he never had a problem with how Goff was playing because someone was like, oh, he doesn't want to go play with the Lions because Jared Goff, they're gone. And you didn't really hear Jalen Ramsey crapping on Goff much maybe I missed it, but Ramsey's pretty outspoken. And
I don't think
he was a guy who crapped on Jared Goff when the Rams were ready to move on there. He wasn't even really overly hyped when they brought in Stafford. He just kind of talked shit about his skills.
I don't even think, because when he was with the Jaguars, he would talk about some of the other quarterbacks and how good or bad they were. I don't even remember what he said.
I remember him saying that he used to have a list of ranking the quarterbacks at a corner that he's played against. So yeah, he 100% a team that needs defensive help, has the money to open up that spot possibly. Instead of going out and getting a guy like Chark, you just elevate Jamison Williams to the number 2 guy. You draft him in the first round anyway.
Yeah.
Now you have St. Brown, Jamison, Goff is coming off an amazing season.
Who is there?
You've still got Swift as a change of pace guy.
Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, Josh Reynolds is going to be
receiver.
I mean, you need help at tight end, but you could easily say, "Here's that defensive help we need first round. Let's go from there."
Yeah.
That would be a fun one.
Yeah. 100%.
Then you've had there were a couple other silly rumors to hit on. I mean, there's like you said, there's not much left. Fun. Caleb Williams, Mr. Heisman Trophy, got interviewed today and put a list of 4 teams that he wants to get drafted by. 3 of them are all playoff contenders, but one of those playoff contenders is my Miami Dolphins. I'll sell the farm system. Do what you have to do. Because our quarterback's answer to head trauma, Tua has decided he's going to take up judo classes to learn how to fall. I guarantee he has a concussion taking judo lessons. He couldn't even do flag football Pro Bowl.
I would laugh if it happened. I would laugh if it happened.
Like, what are we doing? This is the kind of stuff as a Dolphin fan I have to deal with. It's happened like my whole life.
Well, I mean, you chose the Dolphins. So
Lovable
Mario
loser.
loves you for it.
Lovable loser.
Mario
Mario and I have great back and forth. He's the reason I can stay in off-topic sports and just babble on. I mean, I bet Mario will get on and comment at some point because he's one of our guys that we know watches our show. He'll probably get on and say,
actually,
he was an idiot.
He made a comment earlier today talking about how sometimes it's hard being intelligent and choosing to listen to people talk about sports. Of course, that wasn't about us. That was about someone else, and he'll love this one. I assume he will. Yeah. I know he's watched them.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But Caleb Williams, I think the only team on his list that he wanted to try to go to was the Falcons. That would be realistically possible.
That's
the state of Falcons
much.
Don't go after a quarterback, and they decide they're going to run out Ritter this year if he doesn't work out, and they just crap the bed. That'd be the only team that could maybe be in a spot to trade up and get him.
Yeah.
But I mean, Caleb Williams is going to be a top-end prospect. It's going to be hard to get him.
With how Tennessee is basically gutting their roster right now,
the Tennessee Titans very well might have.
Like they might be drafting Caleb Williams because Malik Willis is not the answer. It doesn't matter what you do.
We say that, but Drake May goes out, has an amazing season, and you could be sitting there in a situation where he won a Heisman, but
Caleb
Williams has already started literally doing the Eli Manning approach, saying, "I want to play for these teams." Maybe you get a Bo Jackson kind of thing where you don't want to pick him.
Not only that, but the whole fingernail thing where he's the FU to the Utah.
Okay, so I read an article or listened to a video about that where that particular one was actually a joke because he actually has a family member or a friend that he does charity work with through the Utah. That's a Utah family or fan.
Okay.
And it was he paints shit talking things on his nails and does that as like a joking kid thing. Like he's 20 years old for God's sakes, guys.
Yeah.
But
it's going to go. It's going to. People are going to look at it.
Oh yeah, it's going to affect his
immaturity.
draft stock. Yeah. But that one, my understanding was that it was actually written that way as a joke with his friend. And after the Utah game, which they lost, he took pictures with that friend and like they laughed and pointed at his nails.
Okay.
So I'll try to look more into that this week because I want to say that there was more of a joking reason behind that, but people got offended immediately because we get offended about everything.
Right.
Nowadays.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I think we actually were able to expand on some things a little more than we expected to this week. Had some fun little movie topics.
The Combine is starting next week.
This is true. Combine, so we'll be able to touch on that. We'll touch on some of the... We'll bring up some National League Baseball next week.
Just a heads up on the Combine. Okay, so Anthony Richardson is going to have a big arm, and he's going to run fast.
He's Malik Willis.
So, when he throws bombs and he runs fast, don't be shocked. We already know this. But you can watch the highlights and see that already. I don't think there's going to be anything at the Combine that's going to change anyone's mind unless he runs bad or starts throwing bad. But with not having pressure or anything on you, I don't think he's going to make bad throws. It's usually when he's just having to hurry up and football play. This is when he does that.
The thing that I notice when it comes to some of these, especially the quarterback position, is, and wins are not a quarterback stat. No, they are not.
100%.
But
100%.
I do feel like a quarterback who's going to be a great NFL prospect or should become an NFL player in college should move the needle to help get wins. And Anthony Richardson was not able to help Florida be successful last season. There were games where they were getting spanked.
Yeah.
And so I wonder how much his team poor performance kind of impacts some of his stuff because, like you said, he will measure great. But as much as an importance as his measurables are, how are his interviews going to go?
The interviews is going to be that's going to be the major.
How does he break down a play art? How does he? Because the mental side of the game, that's what wins football games in the quarterback position. How is he going to stack up there? Because if he's just been going out there like Vince Young used to, where the playbook was run straight, run left, one right, or throw straight, throw right, throw left.
Yeah.
Vince Young got in the NFL because he was a gifted athlete, huge arm, did all that stuff, and he won a national championship. But even Vince Young will tell you that Vince Young didn't work hard to learn football when he got to the league. Even in college, he said, we ran a real easy offense. And so it'll be interesting how he does on that side of it.
Yeah, and that's not really something that we'll
know about.
We'll get to, there will be some rumors.
There will be leaks and
it won't be enough for anyone on the outside to really move the needle.
Have you ever taken the Wonder Lick?
No, I haven't.
You've never done it? Dude, take it. It's pretty fun. I think I got a 39 on it once.
I will say that with Anthony Richardson, if you already feel like he's a top 10 pick, unless he just does really bad with his throws, he's going to continue to be your top 10 pick. And if you're someone that doesn't believe it and already knows what he can do, he's going to continue being that. Because what's going to happen at the Combine is it's going to be catered to him because he's an athlete. Yeah. So athletes do really well during the Combine because it's just to show your athleticism.
Exactly.
So that's why Trevon Walker went number 1 last year, is because he's a freak athlete.
We've seen tons of guys skyrocket their draft stock because they go out and some guy who we have not talked about yet, we don't know who he is, he's currently a projected 4th rounder, is going to run a 4.25, and they're going to go, he's a 1st round pick now.
Who's it?
I don't know, but it's going to happen. It happens every year. There's always some guy that just shoots up the board because he ran a 4.25 or he did 47 bench reps, and they're like, we didn't realize he was this strong. He's a 2nd round pick now.
Well, Devin Akane, or Akane, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Aggie's running back.
Yeah.
So he is actually working to run a 4.2 something. Him and Jalen Hyatt are the two that people are expecting to run the fastest. I don't know if there's going to be anyone that gets even close to them. I think it'll be them two. I don't think. I don't think anyone else is even close.
I do 100% watch the combine because I've been a below average speed guy my whole life, and so I love watching guys run fast. Like the Olympics, Usain Bolt, watching that guy run is just magic.
Yeah,
it's just like watching Michael Phelps swim is magic. Like people that can do that elite level speed is awesome. So that's
another guy that'll boost this up because of athleticism is going to be Tyree Wilson. So like,
which I saw a mock today that had him in front of
just Daniel Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it Jeremiah? Yeah. He had him going like 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, and the explanation for it actually made sense because it's the athleticism. It's not that he's better because he like in it when he talked about it, he said that Will Anderson is better. You look at the stats, it says that Will Anderson's better. But the intangibles, the size, he's 6'6", 275 pounds.
They think they can teach that.
He moves like a 240, 250 pound guy.
Yeah.
So he's basically another Trevon Walker.
Exactly.
But he has better stats than Trevon Walker did. But of course, Trevon Walker had to compete with
other
ton
great
of
Georgia players.
Yeah. So Tyree did that on Texas Tech. So that was something that he did explain. It had more to do with the fact that he's longer. He just fits more,
which is all the stuff at the combine that we're talking about. We'll end up changing draft stocks.
And that could affect Will Anderson because he's a little on the smaller side. I mean, he's 235, 240 pounds.
It's football.
Yeah.
So, but all right. Well, I guess like we said before, like, subscribe, follow. We'll hope to keep seeing our numbers grow. Thanks everybody, and we're out.